Okay, The Lanet Show, A Journey Through Time. I gotta say,
Yeah.
that title alone had me hooked right from the start. And the more I sort of dug into it, like
Right.
articles and blog posts and even a podcast episode all about it,
Hmm.
the more I was like, what is this?
Intriguing. Yeah.
Yeah, intriguing, right?
Yeah.
So what's the deal with this show? What makes it so special? Well, today we're going to take a deep dive into all things Lat Portal.
Okay.
The creator, her unique style, unpacking her background, how she weaves Israeli culture into her narratives, and how she's finding her audience.
Yeah. And one of the first things that really jumps out at you is how she describes herself as like the daughter of the greatest storyteller.
The daughter of the greatest storyteller.
And this idea of creating things the world hasn't seen before.
Yeah, I mean, those are some pretty bold claims.
I mean, it definitely piques your curiosity.
Yeah.
Like, what is this all about?
Yeah.
And then she takes it a step further when she says she's an architect, but not of buildings or software. Right.
Which is...
Yeah, that's like a whole new category.
Yeah, what is that?
Right. It's like almost like she's trying to invent a whole new way of describing what she does.
Right, like she's defying categorization.
Right. Yeah.
Or definition. And she even admits that when she says she's the first of her kind.
First of her kind.
And it's hard to define her. Like, how do you even begin to grasp what she's doing?
So how do we start to understand what she's doing? I think, well, she's constructing narratives.
Yeah.
But not in the traditional way, right?
In a way that we're used to.
Not in a way that we're used to. She's blending her own personal experiences with elements of Israeli culture.
Music, food. Arts, entrepreneurship.
Arts, yeah.
All of these elements, and presenting it across different timelines and mediums.
Right, yeah.
Like, it's really this multi-dimensional blueprint for storytelling.
Yeah. So, like, speaking of blueprint, her publishing style is very interesting.
Yes, this is one of the releasing episodes in sets, almost like a live performance. Right. What do you make of that?
I think that's a very deliberate choice on her part.
Okay.
She wants people to engage with the entire set. To really have that immersive experience.
Okay.
To get the full scope of the story.
Right, because it's not just about consuming these like bite-sized pieces of content, but actually experiencing the full arc of her story.
Exactly.
Okay, this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
So in one of her blog posts, Liat talks about going to a 30 Seconds to Mars concert.
Okay.
And completely mishearing the lyrics to The Kill.
Wow.
She thought Jared Leto was singing Marry Me.
Oh, my goodness.
Instead of Bury Me.
Talk about a misinterpretation.
I mean, talk about a misinterpretation.
Yeah.
But she doesn't just laugh it off, which I totally would have done.
Right, right.
She uses this anecdote to actually explore cultural influences on perception, even tying it back to Moroccan Israeli culture.
That's classically it.
Yeah, right.
That's what she does so well, is taking those really personal and often humorous experiences and turning them into these springboards for like discussing broader themes.
Okay.
So it's not just about the anecdote itself. It's about what we can learn from it.
Right. And she does this with other aspects of her life too.
Yes.
Like her love for live music. She talks about how her father instilled this passion in her by taking her to
countless concerts
growing up.
I think that's really interesting because it shows us how powerful those early experiences are in shaping our passions and even our worldview.
And it makes you think,
yeah,
like, what kind of experiences are we providing for future generations?
That's right.
Yeah, it's like Liat is saying, hey, parents, pay attention.
Yeah.
The things you expose your kids to can have a lasting impact.
Absolutely. And it's not just about music. It's about that curiosity and openness to new things.
Speaking of new things, Liat is trying to reach 1,000 subscribers on her YouTube channel by the end of the month.
Okay.
And it's not just about vanity metrics here.
No.
Hitting this milestone would make her eligible for a YouTube Rising Star Award nomination.
That's amazing.
And it seems like the perfect platform for her, given how she blends audio and visual elements.
It really does. And her content is so unique.
Right.
She really deserves that recognition.
Yeah.
And reaching that 1,000 subscriber mark could really help get her work seen by a wider audience.
It would make a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Have you checked out her channel?
Absolutely. And everyone listening, you should definitely check it out.
Yeah.
It's a chance to support a really innovative creator and help her achieve this incredible goal.
Yeah. But let's get back to Liat's work itself.
Okay.
What I find so fascinating is how she weaves together all these seemingly like disparate threads.
Yeah.
personal anecdotes, cultural insights, musical experiences to create this tapestry that's both engaging and thought-provoking.
Yeah, it's like she's building a bridge between the personal and the universal. So she takes these specific experiences from her own life and uses them to explore these broader truths about human nature, about culture, and the way we perceive the world. And it's all tied together with this like incredible energy and this passion.
I know. It's contagious.
It pulls you in.
Right. Like, I find myself getting swept up in her enthusiasm.
I know.
And it's clear she's finding an audience.
Yeah.
I even saw a podcast by, I think their names were Benjamin and Rachel, where they were discussing one of Lyatt's blog posts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a great sign.
Yeah.
Because it means that her work is resonating with people.
Right.
It's sparking those conversations.
Yeah.
Which is so important because it's always a challenge, to launch any kind of creative project.
Yeah.
And build an audience, especially when you're doing something as unique and unconventional as Leah.
Right. Yeah.
But when other creators start taking notice, that's when you know you're really onto something special.
We're not the only ones taking notice, right? You mentioned that she's on other platforms besides YouTube.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're enjoying this deep dive and you want more, you can find The Leah Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Substack, Patreon.
Wow.
It's all about giving people that multifaceted experience that goes beyond just a traditional podcast or blog.
That is so smart because it lets her connect with audiences in all these different ways.
Yeah.
And give people the option for how they want to engage with the work.
Exactly.
Like you could be listening to a podcast on Spotify on your commute.
Right.
And then watching a video on YouTube later that night.
Exactly. It's like this.
It's like she's creating this ongoing conversation.
Yeah.
That you can just dip in and out of whenever you want.
Whenever you want, yeah.
So for anyone listening who's interested in checking out the Lyatt Show, and I highly recommend you do.
Yeah.
Where is the best place to start? I mean, should we start at the beginning of her blog?
That's the beauty of it.
Okay.
You can really choose your own adventure.
Right.
If you're drawn to a specific episode, go for it.
Okay.
But to really get the full context and see how she layers these narratives, it's worth exploring the entire set.
Okay.
And you can find links to all the platforms on her website.
And don't forget to subscribe to her YouTube channel.
Yes.
Every subscriber counts.
Yeah.
And it could help her reach that Rising Star Award nomination.
Definitely.
Speaking of her website, I was looking at it earlier.
Yeah.
And I noticed...
Oh, I noticed something interesting on there, too.
Yeah.
She describes her publishing style as being like music. Like you wouldn't just listen to one note of a song. You'd want to hear the whole melody.
Right. Oh, that's a great analogy. Yeah. It's like she's composing a symphony of stories.
Yeah.
Drawing on her personal life, Israeli culture, all these fascinating observations about human nature.
Yes.
And speaking of music, something just occurred to me.
Okay.
We've been talking about Lyatt's connection to music.
Yeah.
Her love for concerts. Even that misheard lyrics story.
Yeah. Definitely a recurring theme.
Right. But we haven't actually talked about what kind of music she's into.
That's a good point.
Do we know anything about her musical taste?
I did come across a mention of her attending a 30 Seconds to Mars concert.
Oh, right.
In one of the articles.
That was the misheard lyrics.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
So clearly a fan.
So she's clearly a fan.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes me think, wouldn't it be incredible if Jared Leto...
Oh, wow.
The lead singer of 30 Seconds to Mars knew about Lyatt and her work.
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Knowing Lyatt, she'd find a way to weave that into her narrative somehow.
Right.
It would be fascinating to see.
I know.
What she would do with that.
Yeah. And this is where you, our amazing listeners, come in.
I like this.
Okay. So we have this platform. We have this incredible community of curious minds.
Right.
And we all love a good story.
We do.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's the challenge.
Yeah.
Let's use our collective power to get Lyatt's story in front of Jared Leto.
I love it.
Share this episode.
Yeah.
Tweet at him.
Okay.
Use the hashtag, what? Hashtag #LyattMeetJared.
Hashtag #LyattMeetJared.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Let's get creative and see if we can make this connection happen.
I love this idea because it would be amazing to see how that interaction unfolds.
Yeah.
What kind of inspiration Lyatt might draw from it.
Right.
And who knows, maybe Jared Leto is a podcast listener himself.
Maybe.
And he'll stumble upon this episode.
That would be that would be awesome.
Yeah, but I think even if he doesn't, the act of trying is so meaningful.
Right.
Because it really speaks to the power of community.
Yeah.
And how even the smallest action can have a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And speaking of community, let's not forget the challenge that Layat herself has put out there. Remember, she's trying to reach 1,000 subscribers on her YouTube channel by the end of the month.
Yeah, and reaching that milestone would make her eligible for that YouTube Rising Star Award nomination.
Right. And we can all agree that she deserves that recognition.
I think she does.
Her work is so innovative and thought-provoking.
Yeah.
It would be amazing to see her get that kind of exposure.
So, dear listeners, what are you waiting for? Head over to YouTube, search for The Layat Show.
Yeah.
Hit that subscribe button.
Subscribe.
And let's help Layat reach her goal.
And while you're at it, why not subscribe to her podcast on Spotify as well?
Yeah.
That way you can stay up to date on all of her latest episodes, no matter where you are.
And don't forget Apple Podcasts, Substack, Patreon. She's everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah. The more we support her across platforms,
the
more likely she is to reach new audiences and continue creating this amazing work.
Exactly.
It's not just about subscribing, though, right?
Right.
It's about engaging with her content.
Yeah.
Sharing it with others, sparking those conversations.
Yeah. What are some of the things that have resonated with you the most?
Yeah, for me,
Yeah.
it's the way that she challenges our assumptions about storytelling. Like, she's not afraid to experiment,
Right.
break the mold,
Yeah.
and create something truly unique.
Yeah. And I think that's inspiring no matter what field you're in.
I agree.
It's a reminder that creativity has no boundaries.
Right. And speaking of boundaries, one thing that I'm still kind of grappling with is this idea of Layat being the first of her kind.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think she means by that? Is she literally inventing a new genre?
It's a great question.
Or is it more about her unique approach within an existing genre?
I don't think there's an easy answer to that.
Okay.
It's possible that she's really blending elements of different genres.
Okay.
Podcasting, blogging, visual art, performance, to create something we haven't seen before.
It's like she's taking bits and pieces from all these different worlds.
Yes.
And weaving them together into something totally new.
Yeah, and I think that's where the real innovation lies.
Okay.
Not in necessarily inventing something from scratch.
Right.
But in finding these new ways to connect existing ideas and forms of expression.
Right, yeah.
You know, she's creating this new language for storytelling that draws on these familiar elements, but it ultimately transcends them. And I think that's what makes her work so compelling.
Yeah.
It's both familiar and unfamiliar at the same time.
Okay.
It keeps you guessing, it keeps you engaged.
Right.
And ultimately, it leaves you wanting more.
And that's what we want, right?
Exactly.
To be challenged, to be surprised, to be taken on this journey that expands our horizons and leaves us with something to think about.
And I think Layat is doing just that.
Yeah.
She's inviting us to join her on this journey through time, through culture, through personal experience. And along the way, she's asking us to really question our assumptions, to embrace the unknown, and ultimately discover something new about ourselves and the world around us.
That's beautifully put. Yeah, and it makes me think, if Layat is building this new language for storytelling, what are like the building blocks? Like, where does she get her inspiration from?
Well, I think one clue is definitely her love for live music.
Right.
Remember, she talks about her father taking her to countless concerts growing up?
Right.
It's like those early experiences really imprinted on her and shaped not only her taste in music, but her whole approach to creativity.
That is so interesting because it's like she's internalized that energy and immediacy of a live performance and is now translating it into her own work.
Exactly.
And speaking of translating, I noticed that some of her blog posts are written in both Hebrew and English.
Oh, wow.
And I wonder if that act of translating her ideas back and forth between those two languages, if that influences her creative process at all.
That's such a fascinating observation.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about that, but it makes total sense, right? Because translating isn't just about finding equivalent words. It's about bridging different ways of thinking and expressing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe that's part of what makes her work so multi-layered and complex.
Yeah, it's like she's constantly challenging herself to find new ways to communicate her ideas.
Yeah.
Not just across languages, but across different forms of media.
Exactly.
So this brings us back to the listener.
Yes.
We've been diving deep into Layat's world, exploring her approach to storytelling, her background, her inspirations.
Yeah.
But what about you?
What resonates with you the most?
Yeah. What questions does this deep dive raise for you?
What are you curious about?
We'd love to hear from you, so leave a comment.
Yes.
Send us a message.
Join the conversation.
Yeah, join the conversation.
Yeah.
Because Leette's still on her journey, you know. She's building her audience, experimenting with new formats.
Yes.
Pushing the boundaries of storytelling.
And you can be a part of that journey.
Right.
Subscribe to her YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Follow her on Spotify. Explore her blog. Become a patron.
Right.
Your support can make a real difference in helping her reach new heights.
And who knows? Maybe with a little help from our amazing community,
yes,
we can make that connection with Jared Leto happen.
That would be amazing.
Wouldn't that be something?
That would be incredible. But you know what?
Yeah.
Even if that particular connection doesn't materialize, the fact that we're even having this conversation,
right,
that we're exploring these ideas together, that's what makes this whole deep dive worthwhile.
So as we wrap up our exploration of the Lyatt show, let's leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
If Lyatt is, as she says, building a new kind of narrative, what does that mean for the future of storytelling?
What new possibilities are opening up?
Right.
What new ways of experiencing and engaging with stories are emerging?
Yeah.
And how can we, as both creators and consumers, contribute to this evolution?
Those are some great questions to ponder.
Yes.
I have a feeling this is just the beginning of the conversation.
Yeah, keep exploring.
So keep exploring.
Keep creating.
Keep creating.
And keep those deep dives going.
Yeah, keep those deep dives going. Yeah, and it makes me think, if Lyatt is building this new language for storytelling, what are like the building blocks?
Right.
I mean, where does she get her inspiration from?
Well, I think one clue might be that love for live music we keep coming back to.
Okay.
Remember she talked about her father taking her to all those concerts growing up?
Right.
It's like those early experiences imprinted on her and shaped not just her taste in music, but her whole approach to like creativity and expressing herself.
That's so interesting because it's like she's internalized that energy of the live performance and that immediacy, and she's translating that into her own work.
Exactly.
Speaking of translating, I noticed that some of her blog posts are actually written in both Hebrew and English.
Oh, wow.
And I wonder if that act of translating her ideas back and forth between those languages influences her creative process in any way.
That's such a fascinating observation.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that, but it makes total sense because like you said, translating isn't just about finding the equivalent words.
Right.
It's really about bridging different ways of thinking and expressing yourself.
Right.
And so maybe that's part of what makes her work so layered and complex.
Yeah, it's like she's constantly challenging herself.
Yeah.
To find new ways to communicate her ideas,
right.
Not just across languages, but across different forms of media as well.
Yeah.
So this brings us back to the listener.
Yes.
We've been diving deep into Lyatt's world, exploring her approach to storytelling.
Yeah.
Her background, her inspirations. But what about you?
What resonates with you the most?
Yeah. What questions does this deep dive raise for you?
What are you curious about?
We want to hear from you, so leave us a comment.
Yes.
Send us a message. Join the conversation.
Just join the conversation.
Because remember, Lyatt's still on her journey.
Yeah.
She's building her audience, experimenting with new formats, pushing the boundaries of storytelling.
Yes. And you can be a part of that.
Right.
You can subscribe to her YouTube channel, follow her on Spotify, explore her blog, become a patron.
Right.
Your support can make a real difference in helping her reach these new heights.
And who knows, maybe with a little help from our amazing community, we can make that connection with Jared Leto happen.
That would be amazing.
Wouldn't that be something?
It would be incredible, but you know, even if that specific connection doesn't materialize,
the fact that we're having this conversation, that we're exploring these ideas together, that's what makes this whole deep dive worthwhile.
So, as we wrap up our exploration of the Lyatt show, let's leave you with one final thought.
Cool.
If Lyatt is, as she says, building this new kind of narrative, what does that mean for the future of storytelling?
What new possibilities are opening up?
Right.
What new ways of experiencing and engaging with stories are emerging?
Yeah.
And how can we, as both creators and consumers, contribute to this evolution?
Those are great questions to ponder.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling this is just the beginning of the conversation.
Keep exploring.
So keep exploring.
Keep creating.
Keep creating.
And keep those deep dives going.
Keep those deep dives going.